It's an issue that's plagued many a DM over the decades, but today we're going to talk about how we keep our players on track. Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire, here today with the Storyteller's Guide to talk about how we keep our players moving along on track, along the lines of the story that you have envisioned for yourself, that the players are going to be progressing along that logical chain of events as they work their way up and up to reach that final big bad that you have planned out at the very end for a satisfying, compelling, conclusive end to a story. Now, any DM that's been at it for longer than a week knows that their players will get distracted. They'll find that shiny thing, that random cider house that might have popped up in a meme that I shared, any number of random oddball things that you really didn't plan on emphasizing or detailing all that much, just distracts them and they go wandering off, exploring this other thing that now has left you scrambling to come up with details for, and has also left you wondering, what are you going to do about your main story? What is happening with that primary storyline? Well, we're going to cover a couple of ways that I have in mind for taking care of that, in particular the one that I just consistently use and, make use of. But before we get into all of that, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on such an incredible roster of legendary heroes, then go on down to hit the like button and share the video far and wide. But now, let's open things up with probably my favorite method for getting the players to move along the track, because you don't want to just railroad them and beat them back into place. You want them, it can kill the sense of immersion that the players have in your world if they're just stuck on this track, on a railroad track, obviously stuck on it too. You don't want them to see the rails. You want them to feel like they have the freedom to go anywhere and everywhere. And I've talked a little bit about this subject before, talking about how knowing the details of your world is important, being able to come up with things just, well, I meant to snap, but hands are too clean. But at the drop of a hat, at a moment's notice, you need to be able to come up with the details for any place that they walk into. The sights, the smells, the sounds, the people populating it. That grizzled old man behind the bar definitely seems to be a veteran of numerous campaigns, has the facial scars and eye patch to prove it, but years working behind the bar have actually caused him to lose some of that youthful vigor and strength that he had when he was a regular enlisted man, and now he's got a bit of a gut, but with that gut you see that his arms are still incredibly strong, even if there's a few layers of fat starting to develop over across the top of it. Still a powerfully built person. You have to be able to come up with those things in an instant, and I'm doing this all off the top of my head right now, trying to get this right in one go with stream of consciousness, so take that for what you will. But the point is that coming up with those details will do a great deal to help you with keeping the players on track or getting them curved back around onto the story. But how do you actually get them curved there? Sure, coming up with details and all of these descriptive things will be useful and help to really flesh out your world and, again, help your players sink and ease into what really feels like a living, thriving, growing place that's populated with real figures that can just spring up into life in our imaginations. To do that, I just go with the flow. I just go with the flow of what the players are doing. There's plenty of things that need done that will need an adventurer's hand that the city watch can't get to, that the cops can't really tackle. Things that fall into those little neat gray areas that some concerned citizen can come along and help out with, who can maybe get a reward. And not all rewards are necessarily going to hold the same weight for the players. You can't keep them all motivated just by gold. Gold is useful and helpful, but not every character is going to be motivated by financial means, financial wealth. They're not going to be motivated by that kind of gain. Some are going to be more interested in the political favors, in holding sway over certain people, not just politicians and mayors and lords and ladies and the like, but also with merchantmen, captains of ships, building this network of people. You have that bard or the rogue who goes, you know what? I know a guy that can help fix us up with this, and really help the party out of a jam by calling in a favor that was garnered and earned naturally over the course of the campaign. Many different ways of people being motivated, and that's one of the things that I look for first in a campaign. When the players are first writing up their characters, I ask them, tell me about this character. What's their family like? How did they grow up? Why did they end up choosing to become the character class that they're now in? Are they motivated? Are they motivated by money? Are they looking for bigger things? And asking these questions not only helps your players to flesh out their characters more, but it also gives you more tools that you can make use of down the line. For example, in the world that I constantly reference and wish I could someday get back to, my steampunk high fantasy setting, one of my players is a fighter. He's the son of a noble family, but it's a minor house, and he's the third son. His oldest brother is inheriting the house. His second brother is going to essentially be the vizier, maybe the power behind the throne. We have yet to untangle that particular thread, but he's going to hold a significant capacity within the family house. And the third son, the youngest son, he's still going to be a nobleman, but he's not going to hold a whole lot of real power beyond the family name. And so he's looking to build his own aspirations and future. So he is looking for political gains, means of advancing himself, and for the setting, that means establishing a name for himself as a capable warrior, as a brilliant mind, all these different things to get a really strong reputation for himself. And he ended up finding opportunity to really advance himself by muscling in on a position as an overseer for the docks in the capital city. And by being an overseer of several different work teams and maintaining law and order on the docks, he's going to have a lot of influence on the goods coming in and out of there. Influence over the goods means he's going to have connections with merchants. Connections with merchants means he's going to start shaking hands with several different noble family members. In fact, one of the first adventures he was on, the opening one, he actually saved a diplomat from Three Tusk Hold, a former dwarven mountain home that a bunch of orcs had taken over, orcs that were enslaved by the dwarves of Three Tusk Hold. So in saving the diplomat, he kind of shafted a lot of chances of making friends with the displaced dwarves, but now he's friends with a powerful representative of, although from a foreign nation state, still friends with a powerful representative who is part of negotiations for helping to ensure more convoys arrive safely from Three Tusk Hold to unload their goods in the Corvarian Empire. So that's an influential connection for him to have right there, and that motivates him quite a bit. So how does that motivation help me? Well, because the central crux of my campaign is that somebody is trying to derail the armistice and trade deals going on between the Corvarian Empire and the Three Tusk Hold city-state, the mountain home that the orcs now occupy. Now, the obvious suspects there are going to be members of dwarven royal families, the Silver Spire dwarves, the Silver Spire refugees. There's going to be plenty of anti-orc sentiment there. And there's been a good deal of anti-orc sentiment brimming throughout the Empire. Lots of people upset that their once upon a time enemies, and traditional enemies at that, are now on friendly terms with them, that have so thoroughly attacked, debased, and removed their allies from their ancestral home. That's a lot of grounds for anybody to be all kinds of ticked off, and of course the dwarves would be happy to stir that kind of sentiment and try to galvanize the Empire back into fighting against the orcs. But the orcs were able to outfight these two forces into a point of stalemate, meaning that any kind of actual armed conflict would be incredibly prohibitively expensive, both in lives and material. So Corvarian Emperor's not in for it. So that's the central crux of the campaign, is finding out who's trying to disrupt this. Now, does this put a firm deadline on things? Not necessarily, but certainly they want to act fast. So the party has been made part of the Imperial Spy Network, the Shaded Aegis, and they are trying to root out who exactly is attacking all of these convoys and trade caravans and trying to disrupt these trade deals. In fact, one of the Three Tusk Cold diplomats was actually assassinated in the first time I'd ever run the campaign. So they're trying to uncover who's at work doing these things. Now, what if the players had decided not to join up with the spy network? What if they didn't really learn any of these details at all about, somebody trying to undermine this truce and this armistice and these peace treaties and peace talks that are going back and forth? What if they didn't find out all those details? Well, they're still adventurers, they're still mercenaries, and mercenaries are going to get hired at some point. Now, a good aligned character might hear, oh, these poor merchantmen, they're being attacked, they're being waylaid on the roads, they're being slaughtered, their goods are being stolen. We could help out. They'll pay us, which is great, but the important thing is we're going to help out and help clear out some bandits while we're at it too. Not only that, but any greed-motivated characters, obviously they're going to be paid. They're going to be paid to figure this out, and if they can find a bandit camp, who knows what extra loot that they could find and maybe make off with here or there. Now, a politically motivated, an influence-motivated character like the fighter I'd mentioned before might think, yeah, there's all that loot there, so if we get our foot in the door with this merchant caravan who's part of this larger conglomerate, which is financially influential, and we can recover all of these goods and get them either to the rightful owners or back in with this conglomerate and get them a nice tidy profit off of all of that, well, they're going to be motivated to do that. The players are going to insert themselves into that pretty comfortably and pretty reliably with very little effort on my part right there. And by going along with those merchants and finding out about those bandits, then they find out about the larger plot and conspiracy, and while maybe not being officially made part of the Shaded Aegis, they can still end up inadvertently, coincidentally, working with them and doing good works for them. They don't have to sign up, but, nothing, all of these players will still be motivated to help out because, well, shoot, making friends with a spy network, that's a lot of influence right there. That's information overflowing. That's helping out with the stability of the empire and ensuring that peace reigns so that lots of innocents aren't lost over the course of war. And for anybody who's just flat out wanting financial compensation, well, they're going to pay pretty good to make sure that the peace is maintained. So all of them can still be looped into the main quests that I have in mind for them uncovering who's at the root of this conspiracy. But they made it easy on me and got signed up as agents of the Shaded Aegis, and they pose as mercenaries, so they can still go off on all these other side quests and adventures, helping unravel all these different things, and still make progress on the main quest line very comfortably and very easily. So the trick is to find out the multiple ways that you can thread things together and get the players just kind of pulled back over on track. What that is, how you do that, really just depends on the story, but let's just say that you have this idea of uncovering a cult, uncovering cult activities. I love my cloak and dagger settings. I love having a little bit of mystery because it allows skill-based players to be able to interact effectively over the course of a campaign. It allows utility wizards to do more than just throw out a fireball or haste spell. It allows fighters an opportunity to flex in ways that aren't just bashing things in with their sword or their mace. There's still plenty of that. There's still plenty of that to be had. You have to have the combat to juxtapose against everything, but you can still create a lot of tension with social interactions and good roleplay, which is, I live for all of it coming together. But so you're wanting the players to uncover cult activity, but it's a diverse group. How do you motivate all of them? Well, again, monetarily motivated characters are going to be like, hey, you know what? Nobody's going to complain if we kill the cult and take all their stuff to sell, or just take the loot for ourselves. We just stopped a cult, an evil cult that was sacrificing people. Heck, if we can get a reward out of it from whoever, have somebody pay us for it afterwards too, great, or give us some kind of station, but you know what? We still can gather all of this loot. Good motivated characters are, of course, innocent lives are being lost? Not on my watch. And again, characters of influence will look at that and go, I'll bet this can get me in good with somebody. Somebody who is going to want vengeance for their loved one having been taken. And that can be how things get brought to the player's attention. Cult accidentally messed with the wrong person, a person of means and money, took their son, took their daughter, sacrificed them, they're dead and gone, or had just been missing for weeks, and now they want to find them again. Or, if it's not a nobleman, it's just disappearances have been ramping up, and, you reach into one of the players' backgrounds and say, oh, you know what? One of your family members, your longtime friend, has gone missing, and the circumstances seem to fit everything that goes along with those other missing persons reports, and we'll draw them in. Now, you can put a clear, hard deadline on things too, but that's a bit more strongly railroady and really depends on the context that you set up for a story. Like, the end of the world is going to happen in 3 months unless we do something. That can be compelling, that can really motivate the players to try to unravel things fast, but you can't do that all the time, and not everything's going to be a world-shattering event either. So, and if you do it too much, well, one, the end of the world gets boring after a while, and two, if you're constantly railroading them like that, they're going to stop enjoying that pretty damn fast. At least in my experience, players don't like being forced to do things because, oh no, time crunch, keep going along this particular track. And so that's something that I would avoid doing as much as possible unless the context of the story really allows for it, really allows you to sell that. So that's just something to bear in mind with that there. And then lastly, if the players just really don't go in for the campaign that you have in mind, well, there's two things that you can do. One, let the events progress normally and naturally till they get to the point that the players really can't ignore them. Like if in my campaign, if the players really stopped unraveling things, well, things are about to hit a boiling point. The war could very well be imminent, which means either the players are going to be thrown in as agents trying to destabilize the activities of the Three Tusk Hold and really hamper their ability to make war, or they're going to be sent in to immediately find out who is responsible. They'll be thrown into it. They'll be ordered to go and track these people down. All these other side quests, sure, do them here and there if you have time, but this is of paramount importance now. So the players will be sucked into it one way or another just because they've ignored it, and things have just naturally stacked on and progressed to a point where, well, this is what's happening in the world, so this is what's going to happen. You are going to get to this point one way or another, better sooner rather than later, because this is really going to shape the consequences. And the benefit to this is, on the one hand, the players may kind of feel like this was sprung on them, but on the other hand, they'll also get a sense that other things are happening in the world, whether or not they're paying attention to it. So, all of that can be helpful. The trick with that one there, so it's not totally sprung on them, is that you just display that tensions are increasing, more caravans have gone missing, another diplomat's been assassinated, people of Three Tusk Hold on the fringes of their territory have been slaughtered, farmsteads have been burned down, logging operations entirely destroyed, things that just cannot be ignored. And to top it off, if you really want to escalate it further, parts of the Corvarian Empire's borders, some of their border towns have been annihilated, and there's evidence that the Orcs of Three Tusk Hold were behind it. You can really add to the stakes and tensions and build it up and just keep that in the background even if the players aren't paying attention to it, which really lessens the effect of, oh, surprise, war happened now, and makes it again feel more like there's a living world for them to sink their teeth into and really get to know and learn about and understand, with things happening in the background all the time. The other option is abandon the story and come up with a new one. See what the players are interested in and what they're actively pursuing. Yeah, it sucks, but you know what? You have all those campaign notes still. That doesn't mean you can't use it at another time. Just get a different arc figured out and throw the players down along on that. That's certainly a viable option and is something that you really should pay attention to. The number of campaigns and stories that I've scrapped just because players weren't really feeling it, I ended up not really feeling it, are innumerable. I've forgotten about them. But it's because I've forgotten about them and have left them behind that I'm probably a pretty good DM. My willingness to not get too over-invested on just making a story happen is probably one of the most important skills that you can develop as a DM. One of the most important things to realize is that nobody's really feeling this. Should probably cut this short and move on to something else, either in the campaign or just do a new campaign. Nothing wrong with it. Figure it out. But what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Go on down there, let me know your thoughts either way so we can engage in discussion. And remember, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamers Den. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.